Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever found yourself just completely paralyzed by an emotion? You know, that heavy chest, the racing mind, that overwhelming feeling of dread, anger, or sadness that just seems to totally hijack your entire system. You try to think your way out of it, you try to distract yourself, but you're just stuck, trapped in this negative emotional loop. It is an incredibly difficult place to be, and I want to validate right now that if you've ever experienced that, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're going to look at a highly structured, profound framework to actually dismantle that emotional trap. Okay, let's dive right into this. We received this incredible, really vulnerable question from a viewer, and it hits right at the core of the human experience. They asked, how do you overcome a feeling when it's so intense and negative in a way that you can't get it out of your head no matter how hard you try? It's a brilliant question. And to answer it, we're going to rely on the profound teachings of a foundational spiritual text called A Course in Miracles, often just called ACIM. It offers a totally radical, perspective-shifting approach to emotional pain. Section 1. The Ego's Illusion. Why intense emotions feel so overwhelming. So before we can dismantle this pain, we really have to understand the mechanics of it. Why do these emotions feel so uniquely intense and sticky? Well, A Course in Miracles defines the source of this pain by introducing us to the concept of the ego. Now, in this context, the ego isn't just about arrogance or pride. It's actually the part of our mind that constantly tries to convince us that we are separate, completely alone, and under attack. The sheer intensity of a negative emotion is actually a deliberate tactic by the ego. It uses that overwhelming feeling to basically trick your mind into believing that this illusion of separation and danger is absolutely real. The ego's logic is, if you feel terrible, well, the threat just must be real. And of course, this leads right to our natural human instinct, which is to fight it, right? We desperately try to fix the feeling. But here's the catch. When you fight the feeling, you are inadvertently validating it. You're literally telling your brain, hey, this is a massive, real threat that I have to battle. That actually makes the emotion feel even more real to your mind. It feeds the ego. The alternative, the ACIM approach, is simply observing the feeling. When you just observe, you instantly remove the ego's power. You step out of the boxing ring entirely. And that is where your safety is actually restored. Section 2. The 4 steps to peace, moving from panic to calm observation. So, how do we practically make that shift? How do we go from a state of sheer panic and fighting to one of calm observation? Well, the Course doesn't just leave us hanging with abstract theory, it gives us a very clear, highly practical framework. So take a deep breath, drop your shoulders a bit, and let's look at the solution. Here is your high-level roadmap. These are the 4 specific spiritual steps the Course invites us to practice when we feel like we're drowning in an intense emotion. Number 1, stop trying to fight it. Number 2, recognize it as a call for love. 3, hand it over. And 4, choose peace over being right. We're going to break down exactly what each of these means and how you can apply them in real time. Okay, step 1 starts with a deeply counterintuitive idea. And this brilliantly illustrates the core of the teaching. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Now, when panic strikes, our defenses immediately go up, don't they? We build walls, we argue, we suppress it all down. But ACIM teaches that fighting the emotion is exactly what gives it all its power. To find your actual safety, you have to drop your weapons. Do not try to force the feeling away. Your job in step 1 is simply to sit quietly with the emotion, completely without judgment. I want you to picture this really profound visual metaphor. Imagine you are the vast, expansive blue sky. A negative emotion is just a dark, stormy cloud passing through. If you fight the cloud, you just get tangled up in the storm. But if you remember that you are the sky, you can literally just watch the cloud roll in and eventually watch it roll right back out. You are the infinite sky. You're not the temporary weather. And that naturally brings us into step 2. Recognizing the emotion for what it really is. Every single negative emotion, whether it shows up as explosive rage, deep despair, or sharp anxiety, is ultimately just a form of fear. And fear, in the teachings of the Course, is simply a call for love. You can actually answer that call by stating this specific truth to yourself. This feeling is not the truth of who I am. I am feeling this because I have temporarily forgotten my home in God. It's just a gentle, loving reminder that your true essence is safe and you've just momentarily forgotten who you really are. Now we reach step 3, which honestly is perhaps the most relieving step of all. Hand it over. You know, when we're in pain, we put this immense pressure on ourselves to heal our own minds, right? To figure it all out, to basically therapize ourselves out of the ditch. But ACIM says, stop. You do not have to heal this yourself. Your only job is to be willing to let it be healed. You literally step back and hand the intensity over to the Holy Spirit, which the Course beautifully defines simply as the voice for love in your mind. So the crucial point is right here. This is the prayer of surrender from the text, and it is incredibly powerful. Let's read it together. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. This prayer completely removes the burden of fixing the problem yourself. You just acknowledge the lack of peace, you state your desire for peace, and then you just let it be undone for you. It's honestly a game changer. Which brings us to step 4, where we fully expose the ego's ultimate motive. The ego's goal is to desperately hold on to the emotion. But why? Well, because it wants to prove that the world is a dangerous place and has the power to hurt you. It wants you to be a victim. Your true goal, however, is to release the emotion entirely and choose the peace of God. And the absolute best way to make that choice is by asking yourself one simple, piercing question when you're caught right in the middle of the storm. Would I rather be right about my pain or happy? The ego traps us into wanting to be right about our suffering. We want to justify exactly why we are angry or why we are sad. We build a whole legal case around our right to feel awful. But when you honestly ask yourself this question, you realize that being right is actually pretty miserable. Choosing happiness means dropping the case entirely. But above all else, as you navigate this process, you absolutely must be gentle with yourself. These emotions are intense, and overcoming them isn't about perfectly executing some rigid spiritual routine. Your only real task when the panic hits is to find just a little willingness to see the situation differently. Just a tiny crack in the door of your mind. Because if you provide that little willingness, the teachings promise that the miracle will do the rest. Section 3. Summary and final thought. Your roadmap to emotional freedom. So let's bring all of this together. We've journeyed from the suffocating grip of the ego's illusion to a very clear, actionable path toward peace. Let's solidify this roadmap to emotional freedom so you can take it with you right into your daily life. To recap, the next time an intense, negative emotion tries to hijack your mind, just remember these 4 steps. First, stop fighting. Observe the feeling without judgment, because remember, defenselessness is safety. Second, recognize that this fear is simply a call for love, a temporary forgetting of your true home. Third, use the prayer of surrender. Willingly hand the feeling over to the voice for love so you don't have to carry the burden of fixing it alone. And fourth, choose happiness and peace over the ego's desperate need to be right about its pain. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to carry with you today. When the storms come, and let's be real, they definitely will come, will you choose to be the sky today and let the clouds simply pass? You have the incredible power to step back and observe the weather without actually becoming it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this breakdown helpful and it brought you even just a little bit of peace today, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more content just like this. Until next time, stay curious and stay peaceful.